So, how and why would you want to settle your Georgia workers' compensation claim? Hello, my name is Ty Wilson. I'm a Georgia workers' compensation attorney. And our question for today is how and when and why would you want to settle your workers' compensation claim? Well, there's a lot of things that go into settling your workers' compensation claim. The first thing that is very important for anyone to know is that you cannot just file a hearing and make the other side settle the claim. Settlement is completely optional, and that is for both the employer insurer and for the injured worker. And so it's highly recommended, if you want to settle your case, you probably should reach out to a Georgia workers' compensation attorney, talk to them about where you're at, and they can give you some guidelines and some directions on why or why not the insurance and employer may not want to settle at this time. The same is true if they want to settle and you do not want to settle. Well, you may need an attorney to help protect you, as oftentimes when the employer and insurer want to settle, they put a great deal of pressure on the employee. And while I'm not going to go into great detail on or great depths of what they will do, there are very few lines that some of them will cross. And so sometimes you may need a Georgia workers' compensation attorney to protect you in those types of situations. And an example of that would be you need a surgery and they want to settle, meaning the employer and the insurer want to settle, but you need a surgery and you're not going to be able to function without the surgery. You've got to get the surgery. And so you may need an attorney to help protect you, to help shepherd you through the surgery, and then you can discuss settlement if that's something that you guys decide is in your best interest down the road. We discussed that to settle is completely optional. Now, there are other factors, and there's a lot of them, in a workers' compensation claim that make each one of these claims unique and different. Now, they're all similar in a way, but some of the factors would include work status. Are you at light duty? Are you at full duty? Are you out of work completely? Are you receiving weekly income benefit checks? And so work status is a biggie. Weekly checks, more specifically temporary total disability income benefit checks where you're totally out of work, or temporary partial disability checks where you're partially disabled but the employer cannot accommodate your light duty restrictions. Well, those are different than if you're not receiving checks and you're at what is called a medical only status, meaning you're only receiving medical care for your injuries. Well, that could be a big factor as to why the employer and the insurer are not really interested in settling your case, because all they have to do is pay these reduced medical bills. And if they don't have to pay income benefits and they're doing everything they can to make sure they don't have to pay in the future, well, chances are they are not interested in resolving it, or if they are, they're resolving it at a lot more lower rate than they are if there are future meds, possible future surgery, possible ongoing income benefit checks, and they don't see where they're cutting off. And so those are all factors that can come into play. And so, as we said, weekly checks, as we said, medical care, prescription cost. Are you now on pain management, where you're going to have very expensive prescription medication for well into the future, and it's hard to tell when? Well, those are things that, as an attorney or another attorney with the Georgia Workers' Compensation who practice in that area, can help guide you in obtaining the details and the information you need if you do want to settle. If your care has kind of come to a conclusion and there is no future surgeries needed, there are no future appointments scheduled in the future, and the doctor's saying, well, I think you can get back to work, I think we need to get a functional capacity evaluation, those are all signs that the doctor's probably going to release you from care from because of what is called maximum medical improvement, also known as MMI. And so those are factors that can go into where's your claim, and more importantly, where's your claim in the future. Typically speaking, the insurance company has paid you the weekly checks as they are due, and then they paid for the medical care as you're going. If you're getting bills, you need to flip that over to the insurance company. If you have an attorney, you need to hand it over to your attorney and have them reach out to the insurance company and make sure that those bills are paid. Otherwise, what you're talking about when you're looking at a settlement in a workers' compensation claim is everything that's dealing with the future. How many future weekly checks will workers' comp have to pay? How much future medical care will workers' comp have to pay? And what is the impairment rating that workers' comp will have to pay? And is there a chance that that could get worse or increase depending upon if you're back at work in any type of light duty capacity? And so those are the factors that are really critical in determining a value and when it is best to try to settle your claim. The reality is, if the workers' compensation insurance carrier is paying you weekly checks and you've got a great deal of future medical care ahead of you and you're looking at a fairly high permanent impairment rating, well, it's safe to say they're going to want to try to resolve that case and avoid being stuck in paying for multiple surgeries. Sometimes when you have one, you get many. Sometimes when you have one, you only have one. And certainly that's what you hope for. But medicine is not perfect, and what they try to do is fix you as best as they can. And sometimes that goes according to plan and sometimes it doesn't. Well, the insurance companies for the workers' compensation carriers know that as well. And so they'd rather not get into that particular type of game. So how do you settle your workers' compensation claim? Well, as I said, both parties have to agree. So you have to communicate with the other party. Once again, always recommended you're doing this with a Georgia workers' compensation attorney so that they don't, so that you don't, in particular, give away something that may be detrimental to your claim. As an attorney, we're kind of a buffer between you and the insurance company. And it is our experience, as we typically work on what is called a contingency fee, that we are unable to recover unless you are able to recover. You don't pay the attorney in a workers' compensation claim up front. What happens is you sign a fee agreement. The fee agreement signed, submitted to the Georgia Workers' Comp State Board, and then only upon conclusion of the claim does the attorney get paid. And it's all spelled out in the settlement documents as well. Always recommended, if you're at any point in time in your workers' compensation claim and you have specific questions, ask your attorney if you have them. If they're not answering your questions, schedule an appointment, try to get in there. I know we're just now coming out of COVID. However, it's critical that you get the information you need and don't just blindly sign off on something and then later find out that you would have never settled had you realized what had just occurred. We hope that this information is helpful. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions you have. If you have a question you think might be helpful to others on a video, we're always happy to put up new content, and we're doing that as often as we possibly can. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.